Now that we're back in front of the green screen, I was going to wear a green shirt, but then I realised that we're not actually using the green screen anymore.
It's just there for
It's just
the sake of being there.
So I guess, this is it. Enjoy.
Great intro.
There are some actors who will go above and beyond for a role. On this channel, we've talked about Tom Cruise before and his many death-defying stunts, as well as Nicolas Cage and that time he covered himself in face paint and talismans and screamed at people for Ghost Rider. Another actor we can add to this roster of dedicated performers is Keanu Reeves. Throughout his career, and in particular his recent appearances as the legendary hitman John Wick, Keanu Reeves has gone through lots of extensive training. Training that has shown us that, if he wanted to, Keanu Reeves could possibly become an actual assassin. Nisha, are you a big Keanu Reeves fan?
Am I a big Keanu Reeves
Yeah,
fan?
do you like Keanu Reeves?
I like him. I won't say I'm a big fan. I ain't seen much with him in it, to be fair. I've seen Matrix. I've seen the first John Wick.
Yeah, so we're talking about John Wick today, and in particular the full franchise. Nisha's seen one of them.
It's on my list of many other films to watch.
How did you watch the first one and not be like, I want to see the next ones?
I just haven't got around to it, okay? I have a lot of films I need to watch. Disappointed.
Disappointed!
Anyway, before we get on to talking about John Wick, we're just going to have a brief look at a few of the films in Keanu Reeves' past. Because what we're talking about today is the amount of training that Keanu Reeves has undergone or undergoes for the films he's in. So obviously you mentioned The Matrix, one of the biggest films he's been in. Keanu Reeves in The Matrix learned Kung Fu, or at least aspects of Kung Fu to do the role. He's also appeared in things like 47 Ronin, where he had to learn
Ronin.
sword. 47 Ronin.
Yeah, they said Rowan.
No, not Rowan.
Rowan.
47 Ronin, where he had to learn sword play. And he's appeared in other things, a lot of other things where he's had to do the various challenges and learn things for roles, including Point Break, where he learned how to surf.
Start over. Just do it again.
But Keanu Reeves' career, he had a strong career. He had a lot of stuff going for him, but he had a massive resurgence in 2014 when John Wick hit theatres. And John Wick was one of those films that sort of slipped me by. I actually...
Slipped you by?
Well, yeah, it came
Not
out...
slipped by you, slipped you by.
Quiet. But I actually know about John Wick because of Carl. Weirdly, it was I think it was when we were living in Cowlishaw around that time. Carl happened to mention this amazing film this John Wick film where this assassin just goes around headshotting people because they killed his dog. And I was like, what? That sounds like a joke film. That doesn't sound like a serious film. I mean, it's not serious, but it doesn't sound like an actual serious... I watched it and I was like, oh my God, how have I not heard about this? And it came out around the same time, I think it was The Equalizer as well, which was a very similar concept.
Yeah.
Which had Denzel Washington doing the same thing, retired hitman coming out of retirement to do stuff. But John Wick just took off in a way that people clearly didn't predict. Because I don't think they planned for more films. But they got them. We've had John Wick 2. Oh, annoyance, right? I'm going to bring this up while I'm on the subject, because I'm going to talk about this in a Break Brad episode. John Wick is called... The first one, John Wick. The second one, John Wick Chapter 2.
Yeah.
The third one, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. The fourth one, John Wick Chapter 4. Why has the third one got Parabellum in the title when none of the others have an extra little bit on the end?
That is weird.
Yeah. I thought that when
Did they not think of a cooler name?
I thought when they got to the third one, they were going to start adding the name, and then the fourth one would be John Wick 4, Revenge, or whatever. But no, for some reason, the only one that's got a bit... Am I wrong here? Is it just that it's not advertised? But John Wick 3 is the only one that's got the little bit on the end, and it doesn't need to be there. I was going to watch the film anyway. I didn't need a catchy title.
Yeah, maybe they couldn't top the word Parabellum, so they just called it Chapter 4. So we know Keanu Reeves isn't a young man anymore, so how old was he when he starred in John Wick?
I think for the first one, when he was filming it, he was around 48, 49, because he's currently 58. So a 58-year-old man is currently still making action films, which isn't uncommon. Bruce Willis does it a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Tom Cruise is in his 50s and he's still doing ridiculous shit.
And, calling himself young man in films.
Let's not get into that. But yeah, Keanu Reeves was around his 50s. What does that sound?
That sounds like a car
It's a
breaking.
really high-pitched noise. He was in his 50s when they filmed John Wick.
He looks really good.
He does. Awkward pause there, let's move past that. I think it's pretty well known at this point that during the filming of John Wick, Keanu Reeves has done a lot of the stunts himself, but people probably don't know just the scope of the amount of stunts he does. So the number is sort of thrown around, different numbers for different films, but it's around 90 to 95% of all the stunts that are done in those films by John Wick are done by Keanu Reeves, with only a few not being, like, they won't let him do some of them. Like, I think being hit by a car is one of them.
Yeah, that's a bit
you don't want to
extreme,
hit your actor with a car. Like, he said in interviews, I couldn't do that. If you hit me with a car, I'd be in hospital, and it would be the last time I get to do it. But I refuse to believe that. I just think that he was like, yeah, no, just drive that car straight into me. I'll just get up, I'll be fine. And they're like, no, we can't do this. We need you for more films.
Yeah, just the things that I say this all the time when I talk to Carl about actors. Like some of the stuff they do.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, it's like the argument always comes up when it comes to things like actors or even footballers, like major sports stars. Are they paid too much? And in some situations, yeah, they're definitely paid more money than they need to. But when you think about some of the stuff they have to go through in order to do this, like with professional footballers and actors and those kind of things, like the fame alone is one thing that's quite awkward to deal with because you can't really go anywhere in public without being hounded or harassed. But not only that, it's like when it comes to particularly sports stars, the amount of physical exertion they have to do, they have to train hours and hours every day. Like we'll talk about this in a little bit, but for John Wick, the films, Keanu Reeves worked out like 8 hours a day for about 4 or 5 months straight for every film.
Bloody hell.
Like, obviously, if you're getting paid millions, I don't know what his salary was for this, but that probably helps.
It's the motivation, yeah.
Yeah, and like, there's that thing that actors are always like, if I can get fit, you can too. And it's like, well, no, you had an entire team of personal trainers and shitloads of money
it was
and
like,
time.
It was like, what was his? I can never say his name. Rob McElhenney.
Rob McElhenney?
McElhenney from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
Obviously put on weight for the show and then got fit, and he made a joke saying, all you need is a lot of money and so much spare time. You can look like me.
First things first, if you have a job, quit that. Do you have a chef, right? Like a personal chef? You're good friends with the trainer from Magic Mike. Now, do you have a family? Forget about them. And make sure that you have said studio pay for the entire thing.
The thing that I always find is the time. The time is the most important factor for these things. Because like I feel like I don't have any time.
I just don't have any energy.
No time, no energy, no money.
Yeah.
Yeah, living the dream. So one of the more impressive things that Keanu Reeves did whilst filming, there was the first John Wick, this one, is that, you know, the nightclub scene. Obviously, you've seen the first one. The nightclub scene where he like works his way through the nightclub trying to catch.
It's like you played a mission on GTA.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like one of the heist missions or something. Yeah, he's chasing down, it's Alfie Allen. I wanted to say Theon Greyjoy, but it's Alfie Allen. This nightclub scene, obviously it's a very intense scene, it's quite a long action scene. Reportedly, Keanu Reeves learned all the choreography and performed the whole thing in one night. So, he'd gone through a lot of training before this to get ready. Like they taught him sort of the particulars of types of moves and things, so that they could just be like, we want to do this throw, and he'd be like, okay, I can do this throw. But apparently, also during some or all of this filming of this scene, he was ill. He was ill with the flu, and he had a fever of, they said, like around 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 40 degrees Celsius. But he refused to stop. Like, this is a temperature where they're like, if you hit this temperature, see a doctor. And Keanu Reeves would not stop. The director of the film, Chad Stahelski, said you couldn't get him to sit down. He would just do take after take. Like, superhuman. Nisha, you're ill a lot.
Yeah.
What happens when you're ill?
I don't want to do anything.
No. And I get ill and I usually try and push through it. But my pushing through it is I'll actually get out of bed rather than stay in bed. And I'll do a bit of work and then do something else and just feel sorry for myself. Like, this man was, like, fevered up and managed to do an entire scene that he didn't know beforehand. The more we do these Fat Film videos, the more it makes me feel shit about myself.
Yeah, like, you were saying I'm ill all the time. Yeah, when I'm ill, I just don't want to do anything. I feel sorry for myself, stay in bed, watch stuff. I could sit at a computer and edit because it's not that strenuous. And he just goes and does all these stunts.
The number of like young people or old people who've achieved so much, like when you're younger, you've had less time and experience. When you're older, you've got less energy and less like going for you in that regard. And then we hear about all of these amazing things that people do, and I'm just sat there like, I'm at a ripe old age. I'm currently 32. And like my body hasn't showed too many signs of aging, except maybe this. But like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm actually fairly fit, especially for someone who's overweight. I'm fairly fit. But I waste so much time just sat in a chair and watching films and all that. Like the things I could do.
Yeah.
And it's like Keanu Reeves just unwell. And like the amount of training, he's 50. He's now 58. And the amount of training he does, it's ridiculous. He's just built different. Like this is the whole point of this video. Keanu Reeves is built different. We're going to get onto that a bit more as well. But he's just like, why can't I be like that? Advice for people at home, don't try and compare yourself to other people too much. Like other people are, like we've said, built different. Like their minds work in different ways, their bodies work in different ways. And it's not fair to keep comparing yourself to other people who may have those other advantages. But like the thing I want the most from people like that is the motivation, like the ability to just do that. So I'm assuming people are wondering how much training has Keanu Reeves gone through to be John Wick? Because John Wick is portrayed as this like pinnacle of what a man can essentially become. Even in his old age, he is still defeating waves and waves of people. In some cases, effortlessly. Obviously, eventually the fatigue sort of sets in. One of the things I like about John Wick is that you always see that, like, the emotion and the breakdown and the tiredness and the fatigue as he continues fighting. Like, he picks up wounds, he gets slower, he has to sort of fight around those wounds. It's a very sort of realistic portrayal of a superhuman assassin, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, how much training has he gone through? Well, obviously I mentioned he did 8 hours of training per day for months in preparation for every one of these films. And there's a lot of behind the scenes footage of him doing this, and he is a fucking workhorse. Like, all of the trainers who work with him just keep saying things in these interviews like, we can't believe he's still running. Like, he's the first one there to come in, and he's always the last one to leave. And he just doesn't stop. Like, I've never worked with anyone who has as much stamina and endurance as this man does.
At least in the movies I've worked on as a producer, I've never seen a movie star give so much commitment of his time before a movie actually started. And that training has paid off.
Whatever it is, he embraces it full-heartedly. He just goes full throttle the whole way.
I've never worked with an actor who's willing to work that hard, train that hard. The guy's an animal.
He's always first man there, last man to leave. And when it's time to hit the gym or hit a specific skill set, he's always there. He's always been incredibly involved, and he wants to be there.
Please send some over.
Donate some to us, please. He probably would. Like, he's such a nice guy in real life.
Is he?
Well, that's the stories that float around about him. Is he is just genuinely one of the nicest people in Hollywood. Like, there's one story where he was on a flight that was cancelled, and what happened was that the plane had to land somewhere else, and they used a shuttle bus to transport people to the destination. And apparently, Keanu Reeves took over the microphone, the speaker for the bus, and was like a tour guide. And he was like doing sing-alongs and stuff, and doing like, oh, we're passing through this area where you can find this little, this is he, like on his phone looking up little facts to tell people.
Sing-along?
I think it said sing-along. I will double check that. I'm pretty sure he might have just played music. What would he sing? I'm wheels on the bus, full on Keanu at the front. And that's my dream. So throughout this training, he learned a shitload of different things, which includes like the martial arts. So he learned judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga, boxing, and bits of other things. He was also taught how to do stunt driving. He was taught how to ride motorcycles. I think he already could, but he was taught how to do like stunt riding on motorbikes, because there's a scene, you won't have seen it, in Parabellum.
Not yet. I will get to it.
There's a scene where he fights people with swords on motorbikes. So
oh my God.
It gets ridiculous. Like he also learned how to do tactical stunt horseback riding, because in the same film he duels people whilst riding a horse.
Oh my God.
See, as I'm saying these things, you can see Nisha's face going, "Why have I not seen this film?" But he also, obviously, the nature of John Wick, the character, there's a dog. Like there's the puppy, and then there's the it's an American bulldog or something, the one that he has in the later films. But he also had to learn how to handle dogs, like specially trained dogs, for films. So, you know, expertise with animals as well. Speaking of animals, there was a little tidbit that I found out about the third film, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. The filming when they were filming in Morocco, it was nearly ruined by cats.
Of course.
Yeah, because apparently there were thousands of wild cats that kept invading the set, and they had to hire 30 cat wranglers to deal with these cats, and which included building these little homes for them so that they could lure them all in. When they wanted to film, they would lure the cats in with loads of food, just seal them off, film, and then go back to it, because the scene in question involves dogs.
Okay.
And because they had these dogs, even though the dogs are well trained, what's a dog going to do when there's cats running around? It's going to chase the cats. So they couldn't film the scenes.
God, can you imagine all them cats being chased?
Well, apparently they were everywhere. Like, when they said that they had these buildings they built for the cats, they described it as having walls of cats. There were so many cats that they literally had to hire people and build buildings to get rid of the cats. But back to Keanu Reeves' training. So obviously, he's also had a lot of weapons training. Like John Wick uses a lot of weapons. So we're talking knives, he uses swords, he uses nunchucks, he uses pencils. But he's also had a lot of firearms training. And I don't want to talk too much about the specifics of the gun training because A, I don't know a lot about it, and I don't want to claim I know a lot about it, but B, every single time we talk about guns on Fact Fiend, or anytime anyone talks about guns in any YouTube videos, you will always get the same people, the same 3 or 4 people who go to the comment section and start trying to correct everything. And I'm not about that. I'm not interested in reading these comments of, well, actually, you said that this particular gun has this, but it actually has this. Like, it happened with the RoboCop one.
Yeah.
When we talked like briefly about the RoboCop's gun and like the title of saying like, oh, it's super illegal crime gun. Clearly just a catchy title. And yet we had the comment section full of people trying to correct the specifics, the extreme specifics of things. And like Carl said it before, there's 3 things that people get really weird about online. And it's guns, World War, and what was the other one?
Don't know.
I don't know. We'll ask him afterwards and we'll put it in the bar below. So I'm not going to talk specifically about that, but he did a lot of guns training, and he learned how to do like close-up gunfighting, range gunfighting. He learned how to use various different weapons. There's something called like a 3-gun technique where you use 3 different types. I'm not going into it. I know I'm going to get caught.
You're going to get comments on this bit.
But I did watch some footage of him at the gun range practicing with these weapons. Holy shit. It's not just the film. Like, he doesn't just do this in the film. He can do this shit in real life. Like, he's on a gun range shooting multiple targets one after the other almost perfectly, and he can do it with both hands. He can switch guns and do it with any gun he's got. He does it with shotguns, he does it with assault rifles. Like, it's ridiculous how much training they gave a man to do a film. It's so much training for one man.
It is a lot, but it has to look realistic, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people have done analysis of the way that he fights in those films, and obviously they're exaggerated for Hollywood. But the majority of people who I've watched the videos of, at least, have said, well, it's really accurate. Like, the way that he moves, the way that he holds the guns, the way that he attacks people, the decision-making, the stances, like the way he stands when he fires, it's all incredibly accurate. And one thing that the makers of the films were really like insistent on is that you portray the fights, even though they're unrealistic, you portray them as realistically as possible.
Yeah.
So one thing you'll notice about John Wick is that he runs out of ammo quite a lot. Or he changes magazines like a tactical reload in case he's getting low on bullets. His gun jams in several scenes and he has to adapt to his gun jamming. Like, they pay so much attention to specific times when things could go wrong, and they let them go wrong. Like, if the gun jams on set, they sometimes keep it in the film because they want it to look realistic. So Keanu knows to react to if his gun jams and do something else.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, some of the stuff he does is improvised because he has to react to that.
That's cool.
There's a scene in John Wick 3 when the assassins that are trying to kill him, they all end up in this like museum area that's full of old knives, and they start throwing knives back and forth to each other, and sometimes the knives just hit people. Like, they don't stab in, they just whack them. And they said in interviews, we didn't want every knife to go in because that's not realistic. Like, if you're in a panic and you throw in knives during a fight, even if you're the most skilled knife thrower in the world, you're going to miss a few.
Yeah.
So they made sure that even though the important ones had to stick in, that every now and then you would just thump off a person. Which is really funny.
Yeah,
like,
I like that.
It's, you know, it's a scene full of murder, but just in the middle of a scene, someone just gets whacked with a knife.
And being able to keep a straight face when it happens.
Well, the professional stuntmen, like.
I know, but I'd laugh.
I mean, speaking of keeping a straight face, So this is going to ruin John Wick a little bit for everybody. So there's a methodology that the director and the writers and stuff use for action scenes in John Wick. And what it is, in order to make the action scene feel comedic, is that they will start it with a joke, they'll run the action scene through, and then they'll end it with a joke. And if you watch John Wick back, any of the John Wick films, you'll notice most of the fight scenes will start with some kind of gag, and then they'll end with some kind of gag. And that's apparently what they do to make the fight scenes funny. Like, they don't want to interrupt the actual fight scenes, so even though there'll be funny little bits in the fight scenes, like there's one where John Wick, I think it's in the second one, he has a shotgun that runs out of ammo as he's about to shoot somebody. He's got them pinned against the wall, so he keeps them pinned there while he reloads it. And it's like little gags like that are just like, oh, obviously in real life that probably wouldn't happen. Like, I don't know, maybe the guy was supposedly not. I like stuff like that. I think it makes the films really interesting because it just sort of adds this element that you don't normally get in action films of the hero making an error and fixing the error in the fight.
So I really liked the bits in the first one where he would get caught in the middle of doing his business and like by people he knows.
Doing his business?
You know what I mean? The business of killing people.
Right. When someone says doing their business, it's like he's having a shit.
I'll say it again.
I don't remember the scene where John Wick gets accosted on the toilet.
No, in the first one where, he's killed someone or knocked someone out and someone he knows catches him and they're like, I'll leave you to it. I'm like,
I love
that never happens.
I love the mystique that surrounds John Wick in the franchise. Like, there's a bit in the second one where he's sent to assassinate somebody and she sees him in the room and she's like, are you here? Like, basically, are you here to kill me? And he says, yes. So she just kills herself because there's nothing you can do. It's John Wick. Yeah. There is nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's just really laugh at people like, I'll leave you to it, because you're not gonna say anything to anyone. You're not gonna intervene. You're just gonna leave him to it.
It's the cop that lives near his house that does that. When he sees he looks past, sees all the dead bodies, and goes, "You working again, John?"
You working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
Oh well.
So Keanu Reeves had extensive training to become John Wick. And this training was not just delivered by professional instructors, people whose job it is to train people, but he also had instruction from, I think his name was Taran Butler, who was one of the world's finest marksmen, as well as being trained by LA SWAT and US Navy SEALs. So he's had training by the best of the best. By the time he reached the end of his training, the people who were teaching him had said, and I quote, that he was too good. Like, something about the way that he did things was too good. And they said that he was so skilled that they thought that he would be able to train them. Like, he was so good at it that he could... These are people whose jobs it is to teach other people, and they're like, he could teach us stuff. He's that good, he could teach us things. And they said that he was more skilled, like he was better at doing, in particular the marksman stuff, the tactical stuff, he was better at doing that than professional soldiers.
How the fuck?
I don't know. Like, I often wonder when I see quotes like this, are they exaggerating to make the mystique around the film a bit more in, like, oh, he's so good. Like, he's John Wick, like, you'll see John Wick in the film, he's so good, he's better than all of these other, like, people that we've worked with or trained. And that's because Keanu Reeves is now that good. I do wonder whether they're exaggerating, but I believe it when it comes to Keanu Reeves because of the stuff we've heard about how ridiculous he is at... Like, he just won't give up.
And the stuff you've seen, him, shooting the guns, like, not in the film, just actually being able to shoot guns.
Yeah, like behind-the-scenes stuff you see, and like when they're teaching him all of the martial arts grapples and things, like he's doing it all himself. Like, bear in mind, remember, this year, 58-year-old man. And yet he's still, like, he's better than... the instructor's saying he's better than them. Like... So let's just break all of this down. So we have Keanu Reeves, the actor who is portraying John Wick. And he has gone through shitloads of extensive training for all of these different areas. It's been said that he has almost superhuman stamina and endurance. He can go all day, every day, for weeks.
Can he?
Yeah, he can push through illnesses. Like, no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he just gets back up. Who does this remind you of?
Tom Cruise?
John Wick! That's the title of the article!
So...
Yeah, it reminds me of I'm saying it now. It reminds me of John Wick. Like, obviously, a lot of the stuff that Keanu Reeves is doing is all like stunt work and choreographed. Like, in a way, he's not really doing these things. He's doing what is essentially a dance, like a performance piece, which is these things. But they've said that they've had to teach him so much. They teach him all these things. Like, clearly, they've taught him how to properly use all firearms. This is the thing. This is the point of the video. He has the capacity to be John Wick. Like, everything that we've heard about him, imagine if he dedicated his entire life to this sort of thing. He literally could be John Wick. He is able to do this. He has the stamina, he has the endurance, he has the abilities. He can train and learn things super quickly. Like, I'm glad that Keanu Reeves is one of the nicest people in Hollywood. Because, like...
You wouldn't want to mess with him.
No, I wouldn't want to mess with him. Because, like, he has the potential to be the real-life boogeyman. It's a terrifying thought. But it's good because he's not horrible. He's a nice guy. For now.
For now. And he watches this video and realises, Brad's right. I could be John Wick. It's all your fault,
he just disappears from acting. Like, the thing is, how shit would Keanu Reeves be as an assassin now? Like, he couldn't blend in anywhere.
No, I know.
Then again, he could seek, like, think about the place that actors get invited to. He might, yeah.
People think, oh, he's a nice guy, we'll invite Keanu, and he just turns on you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't suspect
and no one
it.
would suspect him. Why, Keanu, the nicest guy, maybe he already is.
Whoa.
Why is he so good at all of these things, despite his age? Because he actually is an assassin.
Figure it out, Keanu. The jig is up.
We're on you. We're on you. If this is actually true, by the way, please don't come for me. Just wake up in the middle of the night, look up Keanu Reeves in his jet black suit. He's just there at the end of the bed, like cleaning his gun. You know too much.
And you're just like, oof. And then you're dead.
Perhaps we could find another way to...
I can't look at the John Wick posters the same again after we did that Photoshop challenge where we had to try and turn them into a Disney-themed poster.
Yeah, so there's a series on the side channel that's Nisha and I compete in Photoshop challenges. And the most recent one, somebody told us to turn a John Wick movie poster into a Disney princess poster. I mean, I can link the video because obviously there's a lot of funny stuff in, but I may as well show the results because I think it'd be quite funny. So I guess I'll use the green screen. This one is Nisha's, the one over this shoulder. As you can see around this, but the eyes are particularly a particularly good point of Nisha's. But then, most proud of mine over here. Check that out. Honestly, this is one of the greatest things I've ever made in 45 minutes. It was about an hour, we had a bit of extra time. And on the Patreon right now, we have a vote as to which one of these is better. And I'm going to say, like, if I don't win, if this doesn't beat this, my villain arc begins. Like, I am done with nice guy Brad because...
What are you going to do?
I don't know, I'll figure something out.
You're going to turn into John Wick?
I'll prank you.
I just want to say, 45 minutes to an hour-ish is not a lot of time.
It's really not. It sounds like a lot of time, but when you have to completely redesign a poster, like that's why I'm so proud of how mine came out.
Honestly, yours is so good. I had my mind went blank for mine.
I have this like gut feeling that there's going to be people out there watching this who are going to join the Patreon at the $2 tier as the voting tier just to vote for you. Now that I've said. Please. No, vote for me. I earned. Look at Wick. I earned it.
It's really good.
But speaking of the Patreon, I just want to talk about it a little bit. Like, not in terms of a plug, but I just want to say, like, the people who are helping on there, just a big thank you, because we put out a post on Fat Fiend a while back about how the channel was struggling, and the only way that we could really carry on doing these sort of things we enjoy doing is with help from the audience. And we haven't really made it clear, but we are literally only able to do the stuff we like now because there is a Patreon. Like, the Fat Fiend channel does not earn much. Like, Carl's always very transparent. I don't think he'd mind us telling him. Like, at the moment, the Fat Fiend channel isn't earning a lot. We don't know why. Like, views are obviously down, but the revenue is also just down on its own anyway. So the Patreon is currently being split between the editors or the old editors, I guess, because Carl's now editing a lot himself. But me, Nisha, and Lucas, we are funded by that Patreon. And the only reason we can make our own videos, the only reason I can make this, is because we're being funded by that. So if you have contributed, or if you are going to contribute at some point, or if you still are, yeah, massive thanks. Like, honestly, it's, you know, it's humbling to know that there's people out there who are willing to give money to keep idiots like us doing stuff.
I'm making daft videos on the side channel.
Exactly, yeah. I think this video is going out on the day that John Wick 4 releases. So, I imagine it's going to be as good as the others. The series hasn't dipped in quality just yet. I'm excited.
Maybe I'll watch the other two first, and then I can watch the fourth.
Everyone, get in the comments. Tell Nisha to watch the films. I brought her here assuming that she'd have seen them all.
At least one was.
Should have got Carl. Carl's seen them. So please avoid spoilers for John Wick 4. And I guess 1, 2, and 3 for Nisha.
It doesn't matter how it looks.
But yeah, avoid spoiler for John Wick 4 in the comments. If you see a spoiler for John Wick 4, fill the comment section with lies about John Wick 4. Make them believable, but make them fictitious. So that when people go through the comments, they won't know what's real and what's a lie. Genius tactic. You can't beat the bad people, but you can overwhelm them with more badness. That's a terrible, don't quote me.
If you can't beat them, overwhelm them.
Yes.
That's the same.
That's horrible.